Hey, I'm Sydney, and we're back for episode 6 of How's Your Soul podcast. And today we're joined with Jahmie, and we're talking all about embracing the inner child. How are you, Jahmie?
How am I? I'm really happy right now. I'm here sitting in a beautiful garden. And so in this moment, I feel really happy. I do think it took a little bit of stickiness to get here, into just the feeling of accepting happiness for what it is. But in this moment, I'm happy. And I'm happy to be here with you.
I
How
love
are
that.
you?
So, oh my goodness, I am doing better. I'm doing better, and I'm just learning to adapt and to find the best in every situation, in every day. Um, Being in a new atmosphere that doesn't feel like my version of what I've built to know to be home is a new experience. So redefining what home is, even though I'm back where I grew up, has been a interesting ride, but it's been a big learning experience. So speaking of home, you're not home. You're somewhere awesome. Where are you?
I am currently in Uluwatu, Bali. I've been here for only like 5 days now, but I'll be here for the month or maybe longer because I'm opening myself up to the possibility. It's interesting you mentioned home, of like what home actually means. Um,
Mhm.
I came here in a situation where I was living at home. I was living at my home I grew up with my parents, and I think they're awesome. And I just noticed that it wasn't my full expression of self. And so being here, I feel my full expression of self. And I'm like, well, hi, doggies. And
I
I'm
know,
like,
right?
is that home? Like, is my full expression of self? Like, what is home? Like, I feel home here, but it's not with my family or my friends, or it's just where my body feels safe and comfortable. So it's interesting you mentioned the, like, just redefining home, or just you're back in your home space, but you're a completely different human, I'm sure, now than you were the last time you were in Michigan. And so, like, what does that mean to redefine home?
Exactly. Exactly. So for people who don't know who you are, what you're about,
Mm.
who you are as a human, what you do on the face of this earth, how would you describe yourself, describe your experience, as my dogs ask the same question in the background? How would you describe yourself and your experience to somebody who's never met you?
I don't know why that question always makes me go like, like I have to take a moment to go from like the answer I just would say to like what is actually true. Um, so I grew up as a dancer, thinking dancing was my thing, and it was. I loved it so much. And through dance and the connection I learned with my body, I kind of paired that with personal development work as I grew up. And so now the expression of myself is a facilitator in mind body balance, whether it's through coaching or workshops or retreats. Um, I feel that I'm here now to bring the connection of body and just like literally feeling what we feel as dancers, whether it's through the expression and artistry and joy and whatever, but also like and pain and injuries and sore muscles and all of the things, and then matching that with the internal world of awareness, mindfulness, curiosity, growth, and pairing those together to provide a service, which I'm still on the very beginning of, I think, but that's who I am.
I love that. I
It
love
still just
that.
feels weird to say.
So
Thank you.
I know, especially when you're redefining, going
Yeah,
from one
yeah.
reality to another. It feels foreign,
Mhm.
and, I know for myself when I decided prior to, getting sick, when it was a decision to step away from the commercial world as a dancer and redefining
Mm.
who am I, in a space of
Mhm.
how I take up space in the world, outside of like my energetic
Mhm.
answer of, I'm a light, I'm this, all these different things, but to like
I
how
love
I
that.
present in the world, um, that it felt foreign to me. And it kind of, for the longest time when I was like building my own company and things like that, uh, it didn't feel true. At first, it was just
Yeah,
like, but no, this
yeah.
is my authentic experience. This is, you know, I am these things and I am doing
Mhm.
these things. So it's just that it's not what I'm used to anymore, and I'm redefining myself in this new space. So it does feel foreign for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
as
and I wonder
someone
too,
who's
it's like sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, I wonder too, like, if we are just conditioned to define who we are based off of, like, what we are actually creating slash what people expect us to be. It's what we present
Mhm.
ourselves as in the terms of actual tangible things. So I have more videos of me dancing than I do have videos of me facilitating workshops, right? So then people would say, but you're a
Right.
dancer. And so that I think jades my answer a little bit. And so I'm really, I'm working on coming into the truth of who I feel myself to be, which is what I shared.
Yes, yes. So in this new space that you're in what brought you to be this person of facilitating mind body experiences? Talk a
Mm,
little bit about your own journey and what that looked like for you.
okay. So I grew up doing these personal development programs, and uh, it's called Insight Seminars. Who I am is because of them, and I would take these seminars and be like, I want to do this for people. I want to lead people in it. So I would, and I took them as a team. So I just knew I wanted to do that, and I always said to myself, after my dance career, I'll do this. After my dance career, and then I was in the dance career, and I felt so disconnected from it because I felt this awareness, like this higher, greater awareness that I learned through these seminars. And then just what seemed like, and of course, there are people who don't fall into this category, but what seemed like superficial, externally based, job focused world. And in that moment, my friend Alexa and I, Alexa, we decided
Mhm.
to just do a workshop for dancers to have them connect to this inner space, and it kept growing and growing and growing. Um, During COVID, so for those workshops, our focus was really just for movers, like to actually take a break from the outer focus. Let me be good. Let me show off. Let me look sick and book to being like, let me dance from a place of joy and love and honoring and expression. And that part just felt so good to me, like that, it just felt true. So I kept expanding it and expanding it. And then during COVID, an opportunity came to do one-on-one coaching, which was awesome, but it was still just so brain focused. Like people just wanted solutions and answers, and I was like, but you're missing such a huge piece of you that has so much wisdom and so much information and so much trauma and pain and experience that, like, let's look at it. And so very naturally it all just started to make sense. um and I'm a type of person to just have an idea and do it, where maybe I should spend a little bit more time percolating and processing. But I just, so then I did a retreat and I did a workshop and I did a course and all these things, and now I'm working on bringing all those together to really bring it forward in a way that makes sense in the world. Does that
Okay.
answer your question? I went wide.
It did, it did.
Oh, I have
Speaking
another thing.
on yes.
One of the big, and this is kind of in alignment with inner child, one of the biggest pieces for me is our ability to heal our bodies naturally, and through our
Yes.
own mind. And the reason I feel like that is true is because as a teenager, I experienced it being true, with my scoliosis, and I was supposed to get surgery. And it was like happened really quickly. They're like, your scoliosis is too bad. You need to get surgery now. If you don't, you'll be in pain for the rest of your life and your organs will fail. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, right. Like that makes sense. And it was my mom who was like, there might be another way. Let's take a pause. And literally the day before surgery, we were like, we're not going to do it because I would have a rod and screws in my back. I wouldn't be able to dance. I wouldn't be able to move in the way I wanted to. And I went on a 4-year journey. I mean, lifelong journey, but at the time it was a concentrated 4 years of every day, like visualizing my spine getting straighter, making minor bodily adjustments that would like fix each vertebrae. And I healed my spine. And when I have back pain now, I know that it's a call back to my body. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't necessarily have this really refined connection between the mind and body.
For someone who has that disconnect between mind and body, I've seen in
Mm.
just my life observation, it's a when it comes to a psychological point, it seems like a lack of trust of your adults, your inner child, not trusting your adult self because your adult self has neglected
Mhm.
your inner child for so long. So
So big.
I was listening to someone. It was a reel on Instagram, but it was from a clip of a podcast, and he was talking about this exact experience of, for all his life, he neglected his inner child voice. He operated from a space of logic, a space of making the quote unquote right decisions or the decisions to get him from point A to point B, that when he decided to step into his creative mind, his creative body, there was a disconnect. He felt always
Mm.
burnt out. He felt all these different things. And then it wasn't until he realized that creative mind is your inner child. And you're asking your inner
Mm.
child to be present, but your inner child doesn't trust you because you've neglected your inner
Mm.
child for so long. So how can you ask me to show up in my fullest self, when I haven't been heard all my life? So,
Mm.
being someone who
Hmm.
facilitates these spaces, what have you
Hmm.
seen? What have you learned? Maybe even in your own life, from your own childhood to your being an adult now. Um, what have you seen, observed, and or learned from personal experience?
So good. I also just love universal alignment because I was journaling about this last night. Like, part of me being here is wanting to connect to the voice of, like, specifically those words, the voice of my inner child. Um, so the first word that came to mind when you said, like, what have you seen or what have you learned was permission. If we don't have an established connection at this point in time with our inner voice, then I almost feel like it's sometimes easier to work backwards. Like, okay, inner child is she's asleep, she's hiding, she's hibernating, she's somewhere, she's on vacation. You didn't listen to her, she left, she's exploring. But here as an adult self, now without that inner child, if you really just felt that adult self now minus without a inner child, it feels a little bit like dull to me. I've experienced. I feel
Mhm,
dull, I feel boring, I feel life feels gray. And
mhm.
in that moment, what I've found is the quickest reconnect to joy, creativity, inner child, right? Is permission to play, permission to, as an adult self who feels down, just choose into the joy by playing your favorite song and letting yourself dance around, or by rolling in the grass, or by spinning. And obviously, it's like, what? That's crazy. But the second you do it, the literal second your body experiences that of joy, the inner child is like, what? We're playing? Like, runs back so quickly. He's like, yes, I've been waiting for you to play. So it's almost where instead of just searching for the inner child's voice, say, come back." It's like, you go meet them, like, you take yourself now and go meet her or him because they've been waiting for this.
Mhm.
And it's a chemical reaction, it's a physical reaction, and I found in workshops when people give themselves permission to play and be silly, even if it's, like, shaking their body out, it just moves out whatever was stuck and, like, binding that inner voice, and it clears up space, and naturally, the voice comes up without you having to go say, you know, talk to it, because if you went to talk to your inner voice, you'd be approaching it as an adult and as if they were an adult, and they're not an adult. They
Mhm.
know play, food, fun, sleep, like, give them those things, and they
Yeah.
will experience the joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is there what's something that your personal inner child felt like it
Mm.
needed, but maybe it didn't get until you now being an adult? Or something they feel like they couldn't do or
Mm.
say or be?
Ooh, just got chills. Wait, will you ask me that again? Because something came up and I wanna yeah,
Yes.
ask me it
So
again.
what is something that your inner child felt like it needed that it probably didn't get until you became an adult?
A lot of emotion is actually coming up right now when you ask that. Um, the word permission comes up in a different way. It's like permission to speak, permission to be seen, permission to be heard. Um, I was very soft as a kid because I had a very loud family and I was the youngest, and so I, like, came into this world of strong presences, and instead of making my presence strong, I just floated, and the detriment of that now, maybe I won't use that word, maybe it's the opportunity for that now is allowing myself to have my own opinion, like, literally down to what I wanna eat. I never used to I just would go with the flow. It was like, I'm with a family of 5 people, and it's like, you think they're gonna listen to me, the little runt, like, saying what I wanna eat? No, they're gonna do whatever they want, and so now I work through that literally every time I ask myself or my partner asks me or my friends ask me, like, "Where do you wanna go eat?" I'm like, "I don't care, wherever you wanna go," and it's so simple, but it's, like, so grounded in my inner child version of not feeling like she could state her opinion. So I feel like
Mhm.
in this time, she's really asking me to, even if it doesn't matter what it is, like, it literally doesn't matter what it is, but just decide and speak up and do it, and it's okay if it has a consequence, and it's okay if it ruffles somebody's feathers and whatever, like, that's on them, but, like, be strong, be bold, be seen. So she's really asking me to do that right now.
I love that. I love that, and I resonate with that too because I grew up
Yeah.
in a household full of the same thing, a lot of strong presences, a lot of loud voices, like, naturally, like, in our house,
Mm.
everybody speaks passionately, and when I
Mm.
moved away, I didn't realize how much my inner child actually wanted quiet, wanted peace, and it wasn't until I moved
Mm.
back into,
Mm.
family atmospheres, and I'm like, I it's like there's a lot of times I just instantly feel overstimulated. Like everything sounds like yelling to me. Everything
Mm.
sounds like, everything's on 10 and constantly like my family like picks with me all the time, like not in a bad way, but they always, because I'm always like, why are you yelling? I'm right here. Like inside voices, and they just
To
get so
you? Wait, oh,
passionate.
because you
Yeah,
say
no, I
that.
say
Oh,
this.
that's
I say
funny.
this to them,
Yeah, to them,
like,
okay.
yeah, but they're just so
That's
passionate about
funny.
everything, and everything is just so big and just next level. And I've been that meek in a way,
Mm.
um, wanting that zen space. But then at the same time, my inner kid actually wanted to have a loud voice, wanted to speak up, wanted to be
Mm.
heard. But I grew up in a space of, you know, um, I was always the youngest one in my circle of people. And
Same,
I was the
same,
youngest one
same.
by a lot. So I would be in elementary school, everybody else would be in like high school,
Mhm.
you know? So I was like the little
Wow.
sister running around with everyone else. It wasn't just by a couple years, it was always by a lot of years. And my family's pretty
Mm.
small, so I don't have a lot of family members that are around my same age. So when I went over, to my dad's side of the family, I'm with grandparents, my grandparents' friends. I'm not with kids, period, not let alone kids around my age.
Wow.
So I was always in a lot of spaces where it was adult child dynamic. So there was a lot of, hey, be
Wow.
seen, not heard. This conversation isn't for you. I'm not going to make you leave the room and go play by yourself. Like you can sit here and be present, but remember your place in certain
Wow.
situations, because now being an adult, yes, there are a lot of conversations that aren't meant for kids. But at the same time,
Yeah.
being a kid, not being around a lot of other kids, you felt like
Yeah.
you always had to be silent. So now being an adult, I almost have this like adverse reaction to where when I truly believe strongly in something, specifically around my family, I'm learning now trying to find the balance because I went from 0 to 100. I'm like, well, now I'm an adult, so I'm going to say my opinions and you can't tell me. Like my inner
I
child is
love
like,
it.
no, I'm going to roar because I'm not a kid anymore. But
I
it
feel
was
that. I
that
love it.
thing. It was that thing that,
Mm.
my inner child wanted for so long. And now
Mm.
that I'm an adult, it just went like 0 to 100. And so now my
Mhm.
adult's like, okay, you have a voice, but let's rein it back. Like time and
Ugh,
place.
that's
And there's
funny.
still other people on the other side of your words. And even though you may mean well, it's still
Mm.
about how you say things and not just what you say. And, all of
Mm.
these things that is like trying to comfort the inner child, but also leave honor what the inner child has to say. And
Mhm.
so that is the balance that I'm dealing with now. And I find, with you and you're allowing your inner child to have an opinion, have a perspective. Have you ever had that like night and day reaction with anything now that you're allowing your inner child to kind of be
Mm.
present?
It's funny. It to me, so there was this like phase of life that I remember so vividly, probably 8 to 10 years ago. Nah, probably more than 10. 10 or okay, around 10, where I would just remember my aunt all the time when we were together, my aunt was always like, "Why are you yelling? Why are you yelling?" I was like, "What? Like, do you hear everybody else?" Literally, like, when my family gets together, family and extended family, everyone is so loud, and I would always get so mad at her because she would tell me that I was yelling, and I was like, "What?
Hmm.
No, but I'm not." Like, and I was like, "Wait, am I loud?" And I realized very recently, so after however many years, this last time my family was all together, I realized that it wasn't that I was being loud. Everyone else was very loud, but they just were not used to me being loud.
Yes.
And so it was never a conscious switch of like, now I'm going to do this. But I think naturally my voice got stronger and stronger, and so much so that it like took people back, which I
Hmm.
actually really appreciate because in that zone, if I was just loud all the time, similar to what you're saying, if I was loud all the time and nobody said anything, I would just be loud all the time. When people are loud, I'm loud, right? Because that's what I learned. If I don't get loud, I don't get heard, so I'll just be loud when people are loud. But because she said that, it made me question, when do I want to get loud? Because I can see that it's seen. Like clearly people
Yeah.
notice. So
Yeah.
when should I get loud? When could I get loud in order to be heard with an intention? And
Hmm.
when you were talking about your experience, I was just thinking like how cool it is that you fully expressed your roar, because now you know what it feels like, and you know it's and you said something like okay, know your place. And that's like the language of your elders that you grew up with, right? But like, what if instead it was like, let's use that when we need to use that. Like,
Yeah.
let's be the let's be the peace, let's be the zen, and let's roar when I need to roar. Like, now that I know that I
Yes.
can, let's do it. And it feels,
Yes.
I don't know, I like it. It feels fun.
It feels good. It feels
Yeah.
good. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know for me, now that, you know, now that my family knows, hey, you're here, you have a point of view,
Yeah.
you have a strong point of view at that, and a lot of times a lot of things you say holds a lot of value, holds a lot of truth. Now that they've kind of like heard the roar per se, um,
Mhm.
I don't have to roar all the time. But sometimes it's like to break
Mm.
past that mold of, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm present. It
Yeah.
takes that just to say, state your claim. I'm here too and I
Yeah.
have something to say. But then, now I'm still quiet. I still like my zen. My family's like, you can sit in a room all day, no TV, no music, and be just at peace. And I'm like, I sure can. But now it makes my
Mhm.
voice so much more valuable and so much more powerful
Yeah.
when I do have a conversation with somebody and I do have something to say. People hear me and they stop to hear me, and I think that's so beautiful. And my inner kid,
Mm.
my inner little Sydney, like finds so much comfort in knowing that finally I can speak up and my point of view be validated, or even not even if it's not validated, just
Oh,
like knowing that somebody hears me and I have a seat at the table and my perspective has place in a conversation. And I think for my inner child,
yeah.
that's the biggest thing
Mm.
that I've been able to honor, and I feel so at peace. And my inner kid is just like, yay, I'm happy, I'm here, and I'm seen and I'm heard. Because I've always taken up physical space, but my
Mm.
perspective has never had the permission to take up space.
Yeah. Do you feel like do you feel like that was an easy thing to realize? Do you feel like it was a challenging thing to realize? Like, how did it feel in the realization of it?
Um, it was a I don't know, because for me, I've always been in tune with my inner kid. I always considered myself
Mm.
a big kid as I grew up. Like, even to this day, I'd rather watch
Mm.
cartoons than a reality show. I don't watch the news at all. I find the
Mm.
news very boring and very depressing. Like, in all the other spaces of life, my inner child shines. I hold space for
Mm.
my inner child. I always have. I just have, for the longest, I wasn't able to um, find the balance in which um, allowing my inner child to be present in the world and how it relates to how it affects other people, per se. For example, what I mean by that
Mm.
is that um, I, when I say I'm speaking both adult and child as one.
Mm.
um, I am a very uh, morally led person. So I believe, morally, right is right, wrong is wrong. And not when it comes down to opinions, when it comes down to facts. And I operate and I hold the
Mhm.
people I love dearly to that same standard. I operate in a place
Mm.
of, I'm going to do right by you, and I would hope that you would do right
Mm.
by me as long as I continue to show up as my
Yeah.
best self. Um, you know, all these different things, all that type of world. But then I have to, my inner child wants to be like, well, you're wrong, so I'm going to tell you you're wrong, and these are all the reasons why you're wrong, but not in a place of I'm putting you down. I'm trying to make you,
Yeah,
I want you to, I want you to understand how your actions affect others because I was
yeah,
raised, you know, very much so as you need to understand how your actions, Sydney's actions, affect everybody else around you. So I'm a very in tune individual. And sometimes it can be
mm,
frustrating when the people around me aren't as in tune. And so sometimes it feels like my inner child feels like, well, why do I always have to be the bigger person? Why do I always have
oh,
to make space and hold space for everybody else when other people don't hold space for baby Sydney? You know what I mean? So
mhm,
in that, sometimes for
mhm,
the longest, when my inner child would get frustrated with those realities, it would come out in a roar and it would come out as very blunt truths,
wow,
and my family would always tell me, Sydney, what you're saying isn't wrong. It just comes out with a bite. It's how you say things.
it's how you're
It's
saying
how
it,
you're saying
yeah,
it. It's not what you're saying. What you're saying is facts. What you're saying is true. All of that, and I'm
mhm,
not negating that. But how you say things can be very sharp, very hard, very
yeah,
matter of fact to the point. And my inner kid for so long was just like, well, why do I always have to care about how it makes other people feel when all my growing up
mhm,
life it has felt like how I feel had to be silenced. So now I want to just state my truth and
right,
how I feel. I want that to be heard. And you just have to deal with the
yeah,
consequences of how it comes out. Because I'm also very much so
yeah,
the same type of person is if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but I have to be wrong. And so far, what
mm.
I'm saying isn't wrong. You may not like how it comes out, but what
I
I'm
love
but
that,
what I'm saying is
I
not
love that,
wrong. You know what I mean?
right,
And so that was my inner
right,
kid self. And so adult Sydney is
yeah,
learning, okay, inner kid Sydney, yes, you can speak. Yes, you can state your mind. Yes, you can state how you feel. But let's find the balance. Let's find the balance
mm,
because baby Sydney, you aren't the only person who is affected by your
right,
experience. And
right,
everybody
right,
wasn't raised how you were raised, little Sid. Everybody doesn't have
mm,
the same set of morals, ethics, and values. So what could factually be
right,
right to you
oh my god,
does not mean it's morally right to somebody else. Or what's morally right to you doesn't make
mhm,
it morally right to somebody else, or right, wrong, whatever. Sometimes it's not even
mhm,
about right or wrong, but just your experience does not always align with somebody else's experience, you know? And so for me,
mhm, that's
I've always had
powerful,
an awareness of my inner child. It's been about finding the right levels and times and ways in which allowing my inner child to speak once I became an adult.
mhm,
Because at first it
yeah,
was 0 to 10 and everything was
yeah,
just a roar.
right, right, right. And now it's like it's so cool. That's one of my favorite parts about having an active relationship with your inner child is like the adult self who learns, who sees. I've always kind of been brought up in believing there are three parts of the self. There's like the child, that inner self, the conscious self, and then even a higher self, like a higher self
Yes.
that knows even more than I know here.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to be the conscious self and having a conversation with the inner child with the awareness of that higher self. And as we get older and as we grow and the more work we do to connect to all of those, like the more that they can ebb and flow, like you were just saying. I was looking at, it's funny, the like audio bar kind of goes up and down and up and down. And
Mhm.
as you were talking, it's like I'm seeing that and it's true, but it still needs to hit. If it was only here, it would be too quiet. It has to hit that mark
Yeah.
to balance, to be a conversation. And
Yeah.
I just noticed that as you were talking. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
So, what was your childhood experience like? What was 7-year-old Jamie's like? What was 7-year-old Jamie's dreams and aspirations and desires?
Just want to start by saying, like, if I could only ever be 7-year-old Jamie, I'd be a happy girl. I freaking love 7-year-old Jamie. She played soccer, she was rolling around in the dirt, she was always outside. Um, she danced and did all the things, and 7-year-old Jamie was a freaking star, which is so funny because I'm like, why am I so afraid to shine now?
Hmm.
But we'll stay there. So when the child me, 7-year-old Jamie, was on stage, she, I'm not kidding, like, and I'm not trying to be cocky, but like literally outshone everybody only because she loved it. Like stage and dancing, it was like so fun and it just exuded from her. And like down to it was just so funny. My parents would always make fun of me. They're like, "You're gonna break a bone," because I would just like hit everything so sharp because I just loved it. It was like, oh yes. And they're like, "You are literally gonna break your ribs. Like calm down." So she was fun. Like she was a star. She had fun. However, that was when she was dancing and doing and active. Like when she was active, she was shining. When she was in a conversational space, conversational?
Hmm.
I don't know. Okay. Communal space. She got pretty quiet. And again, always the youngest, I relate to you in a lot of ways. Um, in a lot of ways, mine was more of I had a big family and a lot of kids, and I was always the youngest, and I was always too young to do what the big kids were doing. So it was always like, "You can't play with us. You can't do this. You're too young. You won't understand." Um, and I would go play by myself. And so like I loved my space by myself. However, like I definitely noticed, I was just journaling about this the other day. I definitely notice how it's impacted my sense of belonging now because back then I always felt like I didn't belong. Even it was very interesting. Like when I was the star, it made a lot of people upset. It made a lot of other kids upset. It made a lot of other
Mm.
kids' moms upset because I was in the center and I was getting the things. And it's like so sad that little Jamie learned that when you shine and you have so much fun and you are like absolutely radiant, people are mad at you for it. And
Mhm.
it's still something I'm reprogramming and it's still something I'm relearning. Um, it's part of the taking up space. But if that didn't exist, if I had no idea about anybody else, like 7-year-old Jamie is fun and free and a star.
I love that, I love that. So, now as you're reprogramming, as you're relearning, um, I wouldn't even necessarily say relearning, as you're allowing yourself to exist,
Yeah.
as you're
Yeah.
allowing yourself to take up
Beautiful.
space, um, what does that feel like? Does it feel foreign? Is there a sense of some type of imposter syndrome when you allow yourself to shine as an adult? And if so, how do you navigate through that?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So consciously, it feels correct. Like consciously, I understand it. Consciously, I can say, yeah, you can take up space and you can shine and you deserve it. That's like a thing that I say to myself often. Physically, feels completely foreign, but in a really broken up way because half of it feels completely foreign and then half of it feels like home. Like half of it feels like, remember how good this felt to shine?
Mhm.
Like this feels great. And then the other half that from being 7 to now has learned, not learned, has decided to dim the light to now raise the light up again or the switch up again is feeling foreign. So the process has been very much like hold my own hand and take a step, hold my own hand and take a step. And what's interesting is I've chosen a career that involved me being in front and leading a room.
Mhm.
And when I'm leading a room in something I believe in, absolutely I feel good. I feel it feels true. I feel happy to shine. However, there's still a voice that is constantly gnawing at that feeling of being home and is constantly questioning and saying, yeah, but I wonder what they think about this. Literally those words, like,
Mm.
I wonder what they think about you right now. I wonder if is this question I'm about to say is the one that happens a million times a day, and it's, yeah, but like, are you valuable? Is what you're saying actually valuable? Is
Mm.
it like being impressive for me, and like being, literally the word impressive comes up all the time. Like, are you actually making a difference in people's lives? Are people really getting what you're saying? Is what you're saying something that people can connect to? It's all centered around like other people's experience of me
Mhm.
versus my own experience of me. When I'm in my own experience, I love leading.
Yeah.
But as soon as I open it up and think about other people, so that process has been shaky. It literally feels like I'm on those like half medicine balls when you work out. And
Yeah.
I'm like always like, whoa, like I feel my core, I feel strong, but it's very wobbly.
Mhm.
And I wonder if it'll ever just feel really sturdy. I don't know, but that's what my experience has been now.
And that's tied to your childhood experience, yes.
It is because when and with the version of the girl that was just happy to shine and loved what she was doing, had she not cared at all about what anybody else said about her and who she made upset, I'd still be shining. I'd love it. I would be basking in it, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
because I paid attention to the voices of people that were upset because I shined, I now think that that's the reality, that that is true, that when
Mhm.
I shine, people are upset, and I care.
Mhm.
Had I chosen not to care as a little kid, it wouldn't be it wouldn't necessarily be so heavy of a process, or not heavy, but as shaky as a process now.
Mhm. Now, do you think it would be different if in your home life, if your, um, older siblings made space for you in their activities, if they accepted you I don't know if accept is the right word, but welcomed you in what they were doing, you know, because I'm sure it's in the grand scheme of things, they loved you dearly and all of that. But just like certain things, it's just like
Yeah,
if you're in the third grade and they're in the ninth grade and they want to go hang out with their friends, they don't want to take a third grader along. Totally understand and get it. But do you think
right.
that if it was a space of yeah, you can tag along. Yeah, you can join if even as a kid, if you got on stage and those parents, were upset or whatever, if your family welcomed you in to their experiences, would you have um, less of a sensitivity to external forces, voices, opinions if your inner circle, your innermost core group of people
Mm,
said, hey, it's okay to exist and exist in all spaces, ones you create and the ones that you don't.
1000%. Yeah, just 100,000 million%. And it's interesting as you were saying that, but obviously, if that happened, then it wouldn't be my my life wouldn't be my
Yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah.
But 1000%, and even now, as adults, I am still the baby child
Right.
by 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 the way that they all see me. It's like I don't feel, and family, if you're watching this, I love you, but it's true. Like I don't feel trusted by them necessarily. Like trusted. I don't sorry, what is the word I'm trying to find? Obviously, it's still really shaky because like, words are hard for this,
Yeah.
but there's a sense of, like, I don't feel like they believe me
Mm,
in a lot of ways. I don't feel like they believe my power. I don't and in turn, I don't feel like I believe it, right? Or I
mhm,
have to challenge myself to believe it.
mhm.
I don't feel like they believe that I'm capable of the power that I think I see for myself. And it's interesting because when you ask that question, I had never even thought about that. Like, if my family had said, "You can shine, you can be here," like, actually, not "you can be here," like, "Come be here,"
Right.
what difference that would make. And I have never thought about that before. And it still shows up today.
Mhm,
It's just something I've totally like disconnected from.
mhm.
So thank you for asking that question. It's interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting how, and I'm just gonna speak from my experience.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say that this could be or is your experience, but I know I know trauma is very real, and trauma does not always have to present itself in some like telenovela, soap opera, dramatic, like deeply negative, experience of death or rape
Mhm.
or whatever. Like it could just be,
Yeah.
something as simple as not feeling seen or not feeling safe emotionally in your spaces. And I know for me,
Mhm.
all the different degrees of traumas that I've experienced as an adult, there's a large chunk of my childhood that my conscious self does not remember. And I realize it's tied
Mm.
because my inner child blocked it as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that my conscious self genuinely it draws a blank. Like my mom can say, "Hey, do you remember when we went to X, Y, and Z?" And I physically cannot recall. I was of an age where I should remember. But that period in my
Right.
life, there is just a large chunk that's just blank, static, gray, black dots on like an analog TV.
Mm.
I just don't know. I know it happened, but I
Mhm.
can't visually draw up and recollect and recount to you certain
Mm.
periods of my life. And things may not have like physically happened, but emotionally I was going through a traumatic time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
hearing you talk and just, me asking that question and realizing like, hey, that just brought up something that wasn't there, that I never not
Yeah.
even considered, but just something that genuinely just was not there and just poof, just
Mhm.
presented itself. It's crazy how emotions
Yeah.
and how micro traumas or traumas of any kind can just resurface by something as simple as a question. And it forces you to
Mhm.
recall a time or an experience in your life. But for me personally,
Mm.
it I welcome those when they do come. When
Yeah.
my mom's like, "Hey, do you remember?" and I really can't recall, but then something may happen, and it's like, "Whoa, that just came out of nowhere," you know. I
Yeah.
welcome those because now I see those as okay. There's a reason baby Sydney blocked that out. Let's dig into it if I can to figure out how I can heal her and maybe recall that memory or that time in my life and make it more positive and heal and hold and make space for a baby Sydney that just wanted to
Yeah.
make it go away.
Yeah. Wow. And baby Sydney just made it go away because that was all she knew how to do at the time, right?
Yeah,
So it's like she used the tools she had available,
yeah,
and now you have more tools, but it takes the work and that like really fine tuning of
yeah,
searching for those.
yeah. Do you feel as an adult that you have I'm not gonna say have, that you're safe. And I'm going to leave it at that. Do you feel that you're safe as an adult? I'm not going to put a situation or a circumstance around it.
Mhm. You just it's the this conversation literally compared to what I journaled about last night is hilarious. Um, in this very present moment of my life, I think I have taken away some of the safety I feel inside of myself. In the grand scheme of things, I feel I am safe because I am always looking inside of myself and seeing where I can give myself more permission to show up. So I think that for me, the safety comes from no matter what my experience is, even in the darkest of moments, I have myself. Like I turn to myself. I use my tools. I use myself in the best ways I can. Sometimes it's not, you know, best ways I can are relative. So I do feel safe inside of myself because no matter what, I know I'm good. Like no matter what, I'll be okay. When I don't feel safe, it's because I'm in judgment or I'm in insecurity of myself or I'm in comparison or I'm in anything outside of the truth of who I am.
Um, what it sounds like to me, and this could be true, this could not be true, but what I'm getting in my understanding of what you just said, and how it is processing in my head, and what it sounds to me is like uh, your adult body logically has all the tools to make yourself safe. Your 7-year-old Jamie that isn't performing is still struggling to feel safe, but your adult self is trying to hold the hand of 7-year-old Jamie to show her that it is okay.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. I could be wrong,
That's good.
but that's what it sounds like to me.
No, it is. And like when you said it was this like drop, the feeling of dropping in my body and not in a heavy way, but in a like, it's okay. It's okay if sometimes it's only conceptual, and it's okay if sometimes it's only the adult self telling the child it feels safe because that's so real. Like, think about children. They are not ever thinking about their safety. Their mom or dad is the one saying, look both ways before you cross the street. Don't talk to strangers. Like
Right.
these things, like it has always been led by the adult self. So I think it's okay. And it
Hmm.
can come from a tender, loving, comfy space.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so rigid. It's like, you're fine, which sometimes it
Right.
sounds like.
Right. Honestly, honestly, truly. And like I think about it's like what I'm
I'm
such
just
a
laughing because
visual
I'm like, I
person.
never know now when we cut out or when we don't.
I know, I'm such a visual person, but to me, like, I
Hmm.
equate it to, like, your adult self is, like, wanting your inner self to kinda just trust fall, like, "Hey, I'm here. I got you. Just lean back. Everything's fine. I will catch you. I am
Hmm.
here," but it's hard to you can't children do not communicate with logic. All they know is
Right.
emotion. They know what their body is feeling. They know what their heart is telling them. Sometimes it's hard to communicate logic to a child. And so sometimes when it comes to our inner emotions, we can't speak logically. We have to meet them where they are. We have to meet ourselves where
Yep.
our emotions are, you know? So logically, we may know one thing to be true, but emotionally, we can
Mhm.
be feeling something else. And sometimes it's just a matter of holding space for both and not trying to fix one or the other and make one thing, make it just one or the other.
Mhm.
You know? Yeah. So if there's anything you could tell 7-year-old
Yeah,
Jahmie now as an
I'm
adult,
pausing
what
because I
would you
wanna make
tell
sure I'm
her?
not talking over you. Okay.
If there's
Sorry,
anything
one
you
more
could
time?
tell,
It broke up.
yep, yep. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Can you hear me? Okay. If there is anything you could tell 7-year-old Jamie, what would you tell her?
Shine bright, girlfriend. Wait. I would tell her, "Shine bright, you're a star. Fuck the haters. It's not that serious."
I love it.
I probably could have come up with something more profound. But honestly, like, I think as an adult version of self, we try with our inner child. I'll speak for myself. With my inner child, I try to speak to her as if she is the conscious, grown adult woman that I am, but she's not. Like you were saying, she just
Mhm.
knows emotion, feeling, experience. So if as often as possible, I want to tell her and communicate to her at a level she'll understand, like, you fell, get up again. You're okay. Or you want to cry? Yeah. I understand why you'd feel sad. This is hard. Life gets hard sometimes. Or like you are
Mhm.
tired? Yeah, girl, take a nap. Like literally like meet I want to just meet her where she is in her experience and tell her that it's okay to feel all of the things as long as you
Yeah.
continue to shine as bright as you can and not do not dim your light for any Joe Schmo motherfucking bro.
I love it. I love it. So all encompassing Jamie, adult and child together. How's your soul feeling these days?
she's feeling she's feeling free. She's feeling like I'm a visual person, so I'm going to describe it in a visual. My soul, all encompassing soul, feels like she's like this and is like behind her is like all the versions of self. And she's like, come on, follow me. Let's go. It's all
Mhm.
good. And the other versions back there might be a little slower, slower on the journey, but I
Mhm.
feel I feel confident, all encompassing. We all feel confident in knowing that the key is light and love and trust and joy
Mhm.
and nature. And because I'm in that experience right now, it's feeling really good.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for making time for me. This has been episode 6 of How's Your Soul, where we're talking all about embracing the inner child. So until next time, it's been me and Jamie.
Thank
Bye.
you. Love you, Sid. Thank you.